yeah, do a bit of welding, a bit of drilling, a bit more welding, and then a bit of grinding and cutting, and then the painting. Yep.
I give it a few watt 4s a couple of times, it seems to be a bit better.
I'll redo Dave is at it again. Freaking butterflies, and they're affecting things. But hey guys, welcome back to DMAC Customs. Redo Dave here in the garage, about to redo some stuff on the old Area 51. This stuff, steering UJs and things like that I had it sussed, but now I don't because of the butterfly effect. You know, hands up who's ever heard of the butterfly effect. I have, and you're about to. This is real science. Let's get at it. Okay, so if you watched the last video on the old Area 51 project, I was putting the column together and then trying to hook up the steering and things like that, and got it all hooked up, dialed in, it was spinning smoothly and all that kind of stuff. Didn't actually show that in the video, but I thought I would just quickly try the exhaust manifold on and make sure everything's still cleared, and it didn't, and it's part of the end result of the butterfly effect. Now, the butterfly effect is like when, you know, a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world and causes a tsunami on the other side of the world. So what happened in this instance is a butterfly flapped its wings in, I think it was somewhere in Japan, and I ended up having to shift my motor and move it down, and the roll-on effect was that the exhaust manifolds ended up hitting this support bearing for the steering shaft. That's the butterfly effect, interfering with my project. Enough about that. We just have to kind of move ahead and come up with a new solution to the problem, and I've been working on it like off camera, behind the scenes, kind of chipping away at it like I didn't really want to do. I just wanted to kind of make a decision and get on with it and do it. But we're kind of getting there, sort of, I think. I sound really sure of myself, but anyway, I'll show you what's going on. Alright, so initially I had that shaft and that shaft. Oh, it went that way, that's the bottom. I think that was those two, and that one up the top, that one down the bottom, that joint in the middle, and that support bearing was landing about here, coming off this bracket here that's welded onto the shock tower, and the support bearing was hitting the exhaust, and you just couldn't get the exhaust manifold on or the bearing in if you did it the other way around. So I've been playing around with different lengths. I had cut a little wee short one and a longer thing, and that kind of worked, but I felt that was a little bit too short, so I made it slightly longer and slightly shorter on this length, which we'll put that back in a minute and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But then I have to relocate that support bearing somehow, and I've been doing a bit of googling and that, looking at how other people have done it, and you can buy very simplistic like flat bar kind of bent things that you can kind of bolt onto your chassis and stuff, which is kind of similar to what I'm just going to make one, because I've got some flat bar and a grinder and a drill, and I'm just not quite sure how I'm going to attach it to the chassis yet. I might make it a bolt-on piece rather than welding it onto the chassis, in the event that our certification people don't like the way I was kind of welded. They got all sorts of weird rules about welding on the chassis and how you got to go about it and how the lengths and you got to go to and shit like that, which is a bit of a minefield. They like some stuff and don't like other stuff. So I'm thinking I might do a kind of a bolt-on type of thing and just cut off that other one on that shock tower and have to touch up the paint and take half the bloody car apart. So I'll have to remove all my brake stuff and that and clear some shit out of the way to kind of do that, which is a bit of a nuisance, but it is what it is. But before I do any of that, I want to do a bit of an explanation on how and what I've done with my steering column for Rob, who has got in touch with me today actually about sending me down a dome light switch, you know, the door switch that goes in there. He's got one that he's going to send it, so cheers for that, Rob, much appreciated. So let's just get into a quick explanation on how I've done this steering column and stuff, and hopefully it's going to be alright for certification in that New Zealand. I did a similar kind of setup on the bomb truck, different type of column, but very similar kind of setup, and cert people were happy with that. So let's get into that. Okay, so this is the factory 51 column, and normally they would come straight shot all the way down out here into the actual old steering box and mechanical box. What I have done is I sliced off my column here, but sliced off the shaft, you know, probably about, I could put a tape or a measure on that. What are we about? It's about 60 mil longer. You could come back a little bit shorter if you wanted to. Now if you just do that, that's going to be wobbling around in there, you know, because there's nothing centering it. So I found a bearing that is a 3/4 ID, but it's actually a real weird bearing. It's got a metric OD. I can't remember exactly what it was. I just measured this and went down to a local place actually, and they were able to find a bearing with those measurements, you know, 3/4 ID, and I think it's like 40 something millimeters or 48 millimeters, 47, something like that. OD, which is that from there to there. And then I machined down the end of the shaft to take a double D. These are Borgeson universal joint, steering joint, and then just drilled like little divots in there for the grub screws to lock into. Now the bearing actually sits up there. Hopefully I'll get in here with a torch. You can see the bearing, the locator bearing's just sitting in there. You saw it, I knocked it in with a big socket in the last video. Now that actually fits in there really tight now. I'm pretty sure it didn't when I first set it up, but it does now. And to stop it wandering back up the column, I've got a piece in behind it, which I think was a piece I cut off the offcut of this, just like a, you know, about 1.5 inches, and that sits in right about here, and I cut a little sort of slit out of it so it could close it up and run it in there, and that just stops the bearing wandering up. And that little blob of weld there is a plug weld that holds that collar in place. And then to stop the bearing wandering out the ways, I made this little doohickey here, which slides up over and then just tightens up into that little divot there. So it's just, that's just there really to stop that bearing, you know, falling out sort of thing. So that just gets tightened up into there like so. I'll get a socket on there. And that just locks that nice and tight, so that, you know, spins clear, it spins true. And what else did I do to this column? Oh, that's right, that bit of plate there, that is just a piece of 3mm, that's my knees, 3mm plate, cut to kind of that sort of shape. I can't remember why it's that shape. I think there was some other original piece, I think might have been that shape. And then yeah, a bit of an elongated hole that the column drops into, and just weld it on. When I was setting this particular thing up, setting that height up, I just kind of followed the trajectory that the factory column went in, I think. I wanted it kind of pointing down fairly low at the time, I think, was to, you know, rather than coming out up here, I wanted it coming down as low as I could get it, so it was as straight a shot as possible to the rack for the old Mustang 2 front end. And so that's pretty much how that column's set up. Couple of things I probably should have done, like these two holes up here, probably should have filled those in, because they are for the old 3 on the tree shifter, which I'm not using, so I didn't think about that before I painted it. So I might just get some little dome nuts or something and just cut them short and screw them in there, just to, you know, so it looks important. And the indicator arm and everything's still got to go get painted and go on there, but I'll probably pull that apart and make sure everything works properly before I paint all that up. Yeah, so that's pretty much how that column and that locator bearing works. And yeah, so like from here, just machining that to you know, a double D. Pretty, you know, I actually did it by hand. Some people might use a mill. If you've got access to a mill, it would be way more accurate, but if you're patient, you can kind of do it by hand, and you know, grinders and linishes and things like that. And then yeah, so from there we got to get into this, which I have got pretty much where I want it now, like lengthwise. So there's my knees again. So I'm redoing my steering shafts and UJs, and mostly it's because I'm having to redo that carrier bearing thing. But yeah, just what it is. Can't say I'm not disappointed, but you know, this is building custom cars and trying to cobble pieces together from different things and aftermarket stuff. It happens. It's just, yeah, it's just the way it is. It's old car stuff. So we'll carry on and start reconfiguring all of this. But yeah, these now are, I think, are going to be obsolete. Luckily I had a meter of this stuff when I did it originally, and I had half of it left over, so I had some spare. And yeah, so I'm able to kind of get this, cut some new pieces, and I had another little offcut that I made that one out of. I've still got to drill all the little divotty bits in there. The bottom one on the it's a Flaming River joint, I think, that has a real long grub screw that goes all the way through. The one right down on the rack, that's why that one's drilled all the way through, so I'll have to do that down here as well. And then the rest of them are all just like partial depth sort of stuff, so I've got to drill and drill like the little sort of divots in, so it's like that, you know, those little things on there, somewhere for the grub screw to sort of sit into and bite into, and then you put that little locking nut on there and then they don't come undone. So what next? I think I might put all this back in again. I've had all this in and out about 50 times now, and then I might set about making up my new bracket to hold this carrier bearing, and then I'll probably pull it all out again so I can paint said new bracket and decide whether I bolt it in or weld it on. I'm still not 100% sure on that. And then I will probably pull it all out, pull all this brake stuff out of the way, and cut the old brackets off and clean all that up and touch up all the paint where I've scratched the bejeebus out of it down here with all my mucking around trying to make it fit. Know what I'm saying? Right, so I'll set about refitting this again, and then yeah, we'll get into it. Alright, start with putting that back on there. Doesn't have to be super tight at this stage, everything's going to be coming back off again. Tighten that up, feed that down into there. into there. Now can I get that into there? Yes, I can. That's gonna have to go right there. Pinch that one up down the bottom. Okay, jam. Yep. Another thing I thought I would point out with these universal joints is if you ever look down on the inside there, snap crackle pop, that's my knees again. If you can see the end of that shaft, it's actually a little bit in at the moment. You don't want them coming right up into the joint because they end up interfering with the joint, you know. So I put them sort of right flush with the inside there, because you get to a certain kind of angle on these joints and they don't function properly anyway. They start, you know, this part here will start hitting in here at about 35 degrees according to the manufacturers. I was talking about that in the last video. I thought it was 30, but the manufacturers say 35, but I've made up a little measuring device which, you know, is to measure my 30. So I'm trying to set them at maximum kind of anglage of 30, and that way I'm kind of well within tolerance and well within spec, and you don't get that kind of bindy kind of snatching with these things, kind of like hitting themselves and wanting to turn themselves inside out, if that makes sense. So with, I don't know what, all that being said, this is kind of what I was sort of thinking, you know, where my stabilizer bearing would end up sitting and be around about here. Now if you look at that, it looks like, oh, it'd be pretty close to fitting, but you just can't get it to fit without getting too much angle, like with, you know, different length shafts, and, you know, a longer shaft down the bottom which would push it all back there. Then it all kind of crashes and hits things that you don't want it to hit, like chassis and headers, and, well, not headers, manifolds and stuff. So what I'm thinking is right about here is where this carrier bearing's going to end up sitting. Where it's sitting now, you can see that grub screw's actually touching the frame, but by the time this is stepped in, that grub screw will wind in quite a bit further, and I want to kind of have it been sitting probably about there. She's pretty close to that manifold, but I can't see any other way around that. There's not going to be any real rock motion on this, I don't think. I think we were all right with that. If I made that bottom shaft longer, we get too much angle up here. It would push it further away ever so slightly from that manifold, but yeah, we just end up with too much sort of angle on this universal joint here. So we're trying to find the, you know, like the, yeah, so that's kind of close as it is there, I think. But we'll be lifting it up ever so slightly, so if it came back further, that angle would get even more down the waist, sort of thing. This could have been cut even shorter to, what would that do? It would probably straighten it out ever so slightly, but it used to work until I lowered the motor. Butterfly effect, bloody butterflies, and they're affecting things. Anywho, so that's what my plan is. So I'm thinking of making like an L bracket that I can bolt down onto the top of the chassis and mount that joint on. So let's make a plan for that. Alright, got this, my little protractor from working out my 30-degree thing.
So probably going to use a bit of 50mm flat bar that I've got, or strap as it's referred to in some parts of the world, and so I'm just going to make a little template that's sort of mimicking my flat bar. You know what I'm saying? I have to draw a circle in the middle for my what do you call it, that bearing, that carrier bearing thing. I have to go and measure that to find out how big it is. I should have measured this before I put that back in there. So can I see? So if we drill a 20mm hole, we should be alright, 20mm, which is just over 3/4 of an inch according to this measuring device. So if we leave about 10mm in my centre. Alright, so I'm just going to figure out how to make a circle and a hole that big. 20, there we go. You like that? Maybe about 30mm out there. And try that. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking, but even having that not a full 90 bend, having a bit of an angled tip on it, maybe, or would that not be any good? And I could even fold it around, do 2 folds, and so it sort of tucks over the side there. Could potentially bolt it in from that side as well as a second bolting location. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a look, take that off again. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of making, and then, you know, putting a bolt in there and maybe make it a bit longer and put a bolt in down the side, you know. What do you reckon? Will that work? I might make it out of steel and see what it looks like. Alright, I already had this piece of steel in the old, you know, scrap steel drawer. I can't remember what this was for. I was making something and kind of gave up on it or went a different route. I'm going to use this. I'm going to go like that, through there, through there. So, but I'll drill that out, cut that off to start with. Alright, so over to the press. Do a bit of put a little bit of a bendy bend on this. If I can get this to tighten up. Yep. Don't want to go quite to 90 though, I don't think. I'll have a look at that. That's roughly what I'm thinking for the angle. It might need to go a little bit more yet, but I need to trim a bit of this off so I can at least kind of go and try it. I wonder if I need to trim it on the same angle as the thingamy-bob there. I'll cut this off square to start with anyway. Alrighty, first kind of little mock-up. I do need more angle on that bend, I think, to kind of get it. It's on too steep of an angle as it sits like that. So give it heaps. Yep. 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 Try that on for size. Okay, so that's roughly where it is intended to go. The angle's pretty good. Problem is I can't get it to sit far enough forward because it's hitting something, or back. I can't change something. Something's going on and it's getting interfered with. I'll do that other bend on the other side if I can. Hopefully I can. I might have to go and get something to mark this with. I need a pencil, a white pencil. Hopefully, get it in there, that little mamma jammer. Alright, so that is kind of roughly where I want that fold to be. It's not super accurate, but that one, sort of halfway between what I just marked and there. I might be making a mistake doing that, but we'll give it a try anyway.
about there. The camera pointing at the sky. So I'm thinking I might fold it on this second mark. That was my original off my little cardboard template. That was what I just traced on there. But I'm going to try and fold it on there. Kind of booger it up a little bit doing it that way, but we might be able to re-squish it, but this will hopefully looks worse than it is. Hopefully we'll be able to, you know, at least use this as a kind of start point, you know, to kind of clear some stuff. So I might trim a bit off of there, maybe, I don't know. I'll go and have another proper look and see how that fits up. Okay, right, so I got my fold in the wrong place. That line there is where the inside edge needs to be, sort of thing. So yeah, slightly out. It's pushing it too far out. It was even more kind of wonky, and I tried to straighten it and then give it another quick sort of press and see if I could fold it again. But now I've just kind of made it a bit munty. So that's going to be my stage 2 template. Like stage 1, stage 2. Now I need to find another piece of flat bar and see if I can make it another one more accurately. Okay, so got another piece of flat bar. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a trim off, and hopefully I might be able to get it into the press to do that second fold up, or bend or break, whatever you want to call it. That's slightly better. I can actually get it in there now, so I'll give it a try. I'll probably bend it a little bit in ways I don't really want to bend it, but we might be able to straighten it out again. So. Might have gone a bit too far, I think. I'll go have a look first. Okay, so we're getting closer. Mark 3, possibly Mark 3 template, or Mark 2 of the actual bracket that I'm trying to build. I have got it kind of a bit touching that brake line at the moment, but that can be rerouted across the front of it fairly easily, I think. And yeah, still obviously got to drill a hole in there and, you know, make it neat and tidy and things like that, but kind of getting closer. It needs a bit more of a bendy bend on that now, I think. Might just see if I can do that in the vise with the old club. Ready? 1, 2. Maybe. It's almost there. I've got a feeling it might be on the wrong angle now. Feels like it's. Yeah, I don't know. Still feels like it needs a bit more squaring up a little bit, but I'll leave that for today, and I'll revisit this hopefully on the weekend, or maybe tomorrow night or something, and see where we go from here. See you then. Hey guys, well, it's a couple of days later, 2 or 3, since I was last down here trying to figure out this kind of carrier bearing bloody malarkey, and I thought I had a plan, but I wasn't happy with how it was kind of looking with that, you know, what I was trying to do, mounting it off the top of the chassis and stuff like that. So it escalated. I've been doing some pondering. Okay, so after a fair amount of pondering, I've changed my kind of plan fairly substantially, like from going to the mounting to the top of the chassis to kind of mounting from up underneath. I hadn't really sort of scoped and sort of having a look underneath to figure out how I was going to do this. I just, you know, got a bunch of stuff out, tools and crap like that. But I've come up with another cunning plan to mount on the inside of the chassis. I'll try and show you, but down in here, coming up off the side of the chassis, since I can't put those coil brackets there anymore, I've kind of got a bit of room down there. So I looked at different ways that I could sort of mount off the existing one that I already built, which I'm still going to cut that off. I think I could leave it, but it's not necessary, not needed there anymore. It's just more junk to get in the way. So I'll probably cut that off and touch up that shock tower and stuff. So I'm going to come up on the inside of the chassis, and so I've already been tutoring around with a piece of 1/8 inch core 10. Now core 10 is core tin 10. It's a different kind of steel. It's got other nickel alloys and crap and that in it, but it's a bit harder than normal mild steel. So this is basically my thing, and I'm going to drill some holes in there and plug weld it onto the chassis. But I'm going to weld a wee gusset in there too, just to kind of give it a bit of an extra strength that way. I think it will be amply strong enough. I've seen them made like real flimsy looking sort of things, and they seem to be fine. So hopefully then if I plug weld it onto the chassis, kind of like the body mounts are, if our certification folk don't like it, it's a case of kind of grinding off those plug welds, grinding them down, cutting them out sort of thing, and then maybe, you know, chipping it off and revisiting the whole thing later on from underneath when really difficult on the garage floor, which is what I'm kind of going to do today. So that's my plan. So I'm going to finish making up this, and then, you know, drilling all the holes and what's not, and I'll weld my little gusset on there. I'm not going to do gussets on both sides, I'll just do it on one side. Which I think should be ample. I probably could put gussets on both sides, but I don't think it's really necessary. But plus I need access to be able to kind of do these plug welds. I could put riv certs in, but then they might not like those for certification because they could, I don't know, spin or turn, and I can't get the drill up in there with the motor in the way. So this is my plan. So let's get at it. Hopefully this is how it's all going to work. It will work good, maybe. So just going to do a bit of work on this, make sure it sort of fits up nice, and then yeah, do a bit of welding, a bit of drilling, a bit more welding, and then a bit of grinding and cutting, and then a bit of painting. Yeah.
Alright, so this is my new plan, is to mount this bracket up here, sort of like there. If that, hopefully I can then make sure it all spins and turns. Like I've got it at the moment, if you'll see, that grub screw's kind of sitting on the chassis, and you can see where I've been scratching it and stuff like that. It's pretty close, like, I mean, that's sitting on there at the moment, but once I kind of attach this properly, like about there, and the grub screws are seated into the little divots and that properly in the shaft, it should all clear. Oh, my lights just died. Should all clear properly, you know what I'm saying? So that, yeah, that's my plan. So it's very awkward under here. Hang on, I've got a bloody light going flat. Right, let's get out of here. Yep.
Okay, so that's now my light's going again. Stupid thing. Right, I'll go and put this on charge, and then I can drill and grind and make that bracket properly. And yeah, hopefully do some final checks and make sure everything's gonna clear and run smoothly if I position it where I'm planning on positioning it. And
yeah, and then that's about it really. That's all she wrote, so they say. Alright, so just grinding a little bevel on that because I'm going to weld that little gusset into here somehow. Might TIG weld it just again for a little bit of practice. I wonder if I should grind a little bevel in there. It's going to be crazy hot. Too hot to touch. Yep. So like in there like that. I want that to stay there like that. Okay, right, let's weld that on. Alrighty, so that's my little gusset welded on there. Should be about 4,000 degrees at the moment. I'll have a look at the other side in a minute, but when I tacked this end, I hadn't allowed for the gas to come through, so it was like full of like porosity. It looked like Swiss cheese. That's where I had to stop and start again because I haven't mastered that whole thing with the filler rod. And yeah, so that it's not too perfect, but it's not too rough either. So there's some pliers. That'll it's not all the way through, but I think it'll be plenty strong enough. Anywho, I reckon. So I'll let that cool off when I round off the corners and just kind of tidy up the whole thing just a little bit. Drill these holes that I want to drill in there for my plug welds, and yeah, go from there. Okay, so got it all clamped in place. The very bottom corner of it's just catching one of my old riv certs from where I was going to put my coil brackets. So now I'm revisiting the idea of putting riv certs in. My logic being that the load on this is going to be sideways, so if I put 4 bolts in there, riv certed into the frame, that load is kind of, you know, sideways on it. I reckon. I don't think it's going to be like trying to tear it out that way. I hope. I hope not. Anyway, it might make it collapsible in the event of an accident. That's another reason, yeah, like instead of having a collapsible column, I've got a collapsible like shaft bearing holder thingamy. I don't know if the cert man will see it the same way, but yeah, we can try. But anyway, like if it doesn't work and whatnot, it's basically 4 holes to weld up rather than trying to cut off stuff I welded on. That's kind of my logic, maybe. Yeah. Don't sound too sure of myself. Yeah. But anyway, we're making gains, I think, I hope. Hey, so I had to go earlier and take the young fella down to one of the parts shops and get him some bits and pieces for his little Morris. So I've seen these on the wall, these little push centre punches. If you've been following the channel for a while, you would have seen I bought one off Wish a while ago and it was absolute junk. So I splashed out, instead of $4, I splashed out $14 and bought one of these ones. And seems to be kind of better. It doesn't make a deep hole, but maybe if you give it a few watt 4s a couple of times, it seems to be a bit better. Anyhow, I want to drill that hole. Alrighty, so that's why I was drilling that one hole. I've just bolted it into one of these, you know, riv certs that was left over from the old coil brackets. So, but I'm going to drill that out and put a 8mm riv cert in there, and I've just got to decide. I'm thinking I might just put 3 in, like say one there and one there. So I'm hoping it'll be all right. I've seen other systems where they've just got like one big center bolt that kind of goes through and bolts into the chassis, you know, like a, I don't know, like a 3/8 bolt or 1/2 inch, probably not that big, but you know, just one bolt, and it's on a slider, so it doesn't look really super strong, and it's just a bit of flat with a hole in it, you know. I don't know, I reckon this should be alright. It's just whether our cert folk like the fastening aspect of it. Yeah. Don't know, I'll do it, see what happens. This will get moved around without power steering enough on the driveway over the coming months. I think that if it's going to tear out, it'll probably tear out just moving it out. I am gonna, you know, it does appear to kind of adjust up well enough that it, at the moment those grub screws are still hitting, but it doesn't feel bindy in any way, you know. It's moving around a bit now because it, you know, grub screws are hitting the frame, and it's kind of like flexing it. It's only got one bolt holding it at the bottom. Yeah, so I'm reckoning that it'll probably be okay, and we'll have a little bit of, you know, uppity ways adjustment and downy ways adjustment and stuff to hopefully keep these in spec. It's this top one that I'm worried about. It's only just, so I mean, we could even bring that slightly higher. The other two UJs I think have got a bit more sort of wiggle room in that in them. It's just this one here, this top one, she's pretty close to, we got a bit there. I mean, this is 30 degrees, the maximum angle is 35, but just looking inside there, she's quite tight in there, but it's still spinning kind of nice-ish. I'm gonna get grease on my hand as it sits at the moment, so I'm going to drill those holes. I've devised a cunning plan to hopefully be able to get a drill in between the chassis and the engine with that little mamma jamma there. So hopefully that works. Otherwise we're back to the drawing board. We might just be welding stuff in there and hoping for the best. That one up. Where's it? I wonder if I should try and drill those while that is bolted in place. That might actually be easier than taking it off and trying to, yeah, I'll do that. Okay, so I'm doing the old kind of nut bolt thing to do the riv certs, since I can't get my riv cert tool in there because there's like a the motor's in the way, and I couldn't find a long enough 8mm bolt that was just a normal bolt, so I've got this bloody Allen key thing, which is an absolute pain. Already snapped one. But yeah, I've got one in so far, so that's, I'll just get these other two in and we hopefully be good to go after that. Okay, next day, I was trying to put the old riv certs in that bit of chassis there for probably about 3 hours yesterday. I got one out of the three in, three in, and
yeah, I could not get that whole nut and bolt thing to work. The riv cert kept spinning, so plan B, I'm gonna put a couple of little put the riv certs in and put a couple of little tacks in them just to hold them, and then I'll try and tighten them up with a bolt, I should say, not a nut, you know. So yeah, wish me luck.
Okay, so it worked. Doesn't look the prettiest, but it worked. So I just got a couple of kind of boogery tacks just to stop these riv certs from spinning, and then I was able to use a nut and a couple bolt and a couple of washers, and it actually cranked up nice and easy until they were nice and tight. Hopefully you can kind of see what's going on there. I'm kind of flying blind at the moment, but yeah, they don't look the greatest, but they'll be alright when they're covered up with a bracket and painted black and stuff. But man, that total little task took me hours, but the final solution, resolution, probably not the best choice of words, took me about 10 minutes. So like get the welder out, put a couple of little tacks on the edges of those riv certs, and yeah, tighten them up and done. So what a mission we got there in the end. Okay, so I think I'll give it all one more fit up, make sure it all works properly and can be adjusted up properly now that it can be kind of bolted up all proper, and before I kind of go touching up the paint and cutting off that other bracket and stuff, because I've got to take these brake lines and that out the way so I can get in there with a, I don't know, some kind of cutting device and whatnot, you know. I'll redo Dave is at it again. So I'll just quickly bolt all that stuff up and make sure it fits and works and stuff. Okay, so got my assembly assembled, the old steering shafts and UJs and carrier bearings and stuff. Now it all seems to work pretty good. It doesn't feel like it's kind of grabby or bindy in any sense, any way. It's actually still a little bit loose at the moment, but I haven't tightened it all completely, but doesn't seem to be kind of binding at all. Another way. I don't know what that noise was. So it seems to be all good. I would have liked a little bit more clearance between the manifold and the steering shaft, but I just can't figure out a way of doing it with what I'm using. I mean, it's all good. It's like not touching. There's still clearance. It's not going to be a heat issue on that part of the shaft, I would think. I doubt you'll be able to put one of these things on. That'll probably hit. Yeah, nah, that ain't gonna go on there, but that's alright. They're a bit ugly anyway. I was just gonna put them on because I've got them, and I thought they might be handy to have, you know, for heat shielding. But yeah, I probably won't put them on now. So yeah, that's pretty much how it's gonna be, I think. Now I just got to kind of pull all that brake stuff out the way and do some cutting. I'll pull it all back out again now that I know it's got to work. I've still got to drill all the sort of dimples on the shafts, most of them anyway, that I've got, now that I've got all my lengths and that how I want them. Got to touch up all the paint and stuff like that, and got to cut off the old brackets. Might as well get rid of them. I could leave them, but you know, they're not needed now. They're just, you know, I'll cut them off and try and clean it up the best I can, and then yeah, get in there and touch up some paints. And now I've got to do cutting and grinding next to all this paint that I want to keep, so I've got to find a way of sort of shielding all of that while I get in there and do some cutting. Might not use a zip disc if I can help it, because they burn pretty hot. I might try the old a reciprocating saw, maybe, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, I'll blow all this apart again and then cut that stuff up. firewall protected, hopefully. Taken out all the steering stuff and removed the brake stuff out of the way that I think I need to get out of the way. I can't actually even get in there with a zip disc anyway, so I'm gonna have to use the old reciprocator and have a crack at trying to get that bracket off now. We'll give it a crack and see how we go. So now I've just got to clean it all up. Might have to get the old belt snapper 1000 out and see if he wants to play. Okay, so I got 99% of it off. There's a little bit down the bottom there that I haven't quite flushed out, but yeah, it's all right. So it's good enough. As you saw, the old belt snapper 1000 was just true to form. Hang your head in shame. You wait and see. I stopped recording after a while of how many belts I was snapping. Even resorted to the little, I wouldn't call them the belt snapper 2000 because that one doesn't snap belts. It hasn't got enough torque. It's kind of okay for like more finishing, and then yeah, I kind of went in there with the little roll lock. But yeah, this little guy here, I don't know whether it leaks too much air or whatever, but it doesn't like my compressor. It just doesn't have enough onions and tank capacity in that. But here's my belts. In that little exercise, so yeah, I even resorted to the same brand as the belt snapper 1000, and some of them literally got about 3 seconds out of them and they would snap always at the join. These things drive me nuts because the join's hard and tight, and as it rolls around that front wheel they just snap off at the join. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 belts. plus a couple of the little ones I wore out. Now I'm happy with wearing them out. I'm just not happy with getting like 30 seconds out of them. Some of these are like literally brand new. I got seconds out of them before they came apart at the seams, and that just does my head in. I don't know whether my power file, the old Belt Snapper 1000, is just too fast. It was variable speed, and the variable thing like shit itself, so we bypassed that, and now it's just, you know, full send. So it could just be going too fast for these belts, I don't know, but man, that does my head in. Because I don't know, I can't even remember how much these cost, but these are about $1 each. The same brand ones, the tool shed ones. These here, I can't remember. I think I pay for a packet of 10. I can't remember. I don't know, but they're probably roughly $1 each. There's like 22 bucks worth of belts just to take that bracket off because of the freaking butterflies and they're affecting things. But I have to empty my bin before I can even put them in the bin. So anyway, carry on. Now I've got a huge mess to clean up, but we're getting there. Alright, so cleaned up, ready to touch up now. So masking, and I've done some other masking. Well, kind of pretty rude masking. Can is shook, and let's get some rattle can recon on there. Should employ the services of Rattle Can Dan from Oklahoma. He's the man for the old rattle can. That's what it says on his business card anyway. So try not to get overspray on everything else. What's going on? So I'm just waiting for some paint to dry. Drying. Figured out what to do next, which is to drill these dimples in where I need them, hopefully. Just pinch that up tight. Multiple marks on there now, damn it. Do some measuring. Yeah, that's it. It's all good. Just got to get it so it sits flush inside there, I reckon. Sure about phasing on that. I've got marks on both sides. I'm not sure which one I need to be using. Maybe it's that one. I don't know. I need to check some stuff. It's my old Plymouth. Right, so I've figured out all the phasing of which side I need to drill on these shafts. So I'm gonna drill a little bit of a pilot on each of them before I drill the big mamma jammer to accept the old grub screws. So let's get that done. I've already punched them all with my flash new punch. This was worth the money. Don't buy one off Wish, buy one, you know, like a proper one. Alright, just quickly start putting this back together. Make sure that's wound right back so I can wind this grub screw right in. Sounded a bit Australian then. Right in, yeah. That should be ready to, in theory, famous last words, go back into the car for the final time. I'm not going to paint these because
I'll end up just scratching them up and that. Probably have to pull this out again at some point for some reason. I don't know what. Yeah. Might as well just put everything back on in the order that I took it off in. Kind of. I'm missing a one of these little button head jobbies. I don't know what I've done with it. Probably took it out, put it somewhere safe, and promptly lost it. Get that tighten up. Yeah. Yeah. I've already done that one with the airline attachment. Now I've got to put this brake hose, the two there. Is it down on the floor somewhere? Move them all in here. I've got one. Oh, there it is there. Couldn't see it for looking. My dear old mother always says. Right, I've got to need one of these and one of these. Put that through there. I need a hammer that I'm not gonna. Oh, there we go. And that's got to come back up into there. Get that started. And they've got to come down over there. There we go. There, got it on there. Into that back. Take that out. Off. I talk about button heads. That's these little jammers here. Thought that was a great idea when I decided to put them everywhere on this project, and it's actually a bit of a pain in the ass because I haven't got the right tools yet to use ratchets and stuff with them. I'll get the other one started before I will drive that one home, and pinch these up and tight. And tight, just like that. Okay, so what else have I taken off that I need to put back on? That's about it, I think. Okay, so let's start with chucking this on. Try not to scratch up all the paint that I just did. Oh, I forgot this thing here. Oh, I think I've got this the wrong way. Yeah, I have. I've drilled the thing in the wrong thing. Damn it.
Get this up in there, hopefully it will still fits. For some reason it doesn't want to. Okay. There we go. At least one of them wants to play. Doesn't that one want to go in? Maybe it just needs forcing. No, I don't like the feel of that. Ugh.
use the right tool, sort of. Yeah. Yep, tight, tight, tight. Right. The tool's on the floor. My steering wheel's 180 degrees out, but not quite 180 out, but that's alright. I've got a funny feeling I didn't have this in the right spot. Why does that feel like it's moving? Oh, the whole shaft moves. That's weird. I don't know if that's normal with one of these racks. There's a little bit of, I'm sure I've cranked all these locking screws up down there proper. Now, here's my little measuring device, my little 30-degree thing. It's hard to see, but I'm pretty sure I'm well within spec on all of these universals. These ones here definitely down the bottom. My biggest concern was this one at the top here, but I can see daylight through there, and that's at its kind of apex sort of thing, so that tells me that it's not going to hit itself, you know. Okay, so you may notice my bracket on the bench. It's because I'm on on to a new version again. Now, when I had that all bolted up tight, it worked. Well, I was getting a little bit of flex out of it, is for one thing, but the way it ended up positioned was this carrier bearing was right down on top of that universal joint sort of thing, and it was kind of making this grindy noise sort of thing when I turned it, and I was kind of wondering where it was coming from. I thought it was in the column and whatnot. So I loosened everything off and just got it to get away from there, and discovered that it was making this grindy noise. But I have roughed out very roughly version 728 and bolted that in, and it's bolted up tight and everything's adjusted and whatnot. All the UJs are all tight, and yeah, it spins and turns nice and free. It's not flexing, it's not making weird noises other than its normal noises. So I've just got to take that off again now, clean it up, make it a bit more presentable. And I don't even know whether I'll need, I made it out of some thicker material, some 5mm, which is just under a 1/4 of an inch. So I made it a kind of bit beefier as well, and still using those same mounting holes. It's pretty basic. I'll show you when I pull it out. And yeah, just got to kind of clean it up and make it look a little bit nicer, yeah, prettier. So I'll just quickly take that out again. Okay, so this is version whatever I said before. I had it written down, but I forgot what it was. So it's like, it's not pretty, and it was, I just hacked it out of a bit of 5mm plate last night and thought, you know, can I make this work? So all I've got to, you know, kind of do is just sort of tidy it up, round off some corners and grind it up a bit nicer, and she'll be good to go. There's a bit of offcut, and yeah, so we're getting there-ish, maybe. Yeah, I even got like magnetic mirror things out and had a look at things that way. So yeah, we'll just clear away some stuff and then we'll get into dressing this a bit. Round that off, maybe, something like that. The reason this is all kind of offset is because I moved it all that way, like that was like that, pretty much. But I wanted that hole over there further, so I moved it over and actually changed the angle of that slightly too, so that runs parallel to the steering shaft approximately. So yeah, I just got to do some little bit of grinding and a little bit of cutting on this stuff and paint it, and then hopefully we're good to go. I just want to, you know, round off the corners, dress it up a bit. I wonder if I should take that on a bit of an angle like that. I've made a mess now, just to neaten it up a little bit. Something like that, you know, just lop those corners off, clean it up, grind it up, we should be good to go. Okay, so had a bit of spot of bother with my Rust-Oleum ×2 can. It was not spraying. Then it went over there, but that's alright, it's no big deal. So I had to soak the cap in a bit of lac thin as it had a bit of dry paint in there. So got it spraying alright, but after I'd already put a big on there. You know, it's just one of those things. But I'll leave that to dry off. It's like satin, so that little splotch in there is not going to upset me that much, really. And yeah, I'll leave that. Hopefully come down tomorrow night after work, bolt it all back in, and we should be done on this redo of the steering geometry stuff, you know, hopefully. So till tomorrow, see you then. Alrighty, so there's my new bracket all finished. Pretty simple, really. Probably overthinking it all before. Looking at this, I definitely was. So I just got to bolt it all back on and see if it works. Alrighty, so seems to be alright. There is a little click click noise going on there somewhere. I don't know what that's about. Could be in the rack, maybe, or something else. Oh, it could just be that moving in that bearing, maybe a little bit. Hurt myself again. But anyway, that's it all back together. I'm just going to drop it down onto the ground and make sure everything moves with some weight in that on it properly. That's where some of the noise is coming from, but yeah, so even with old the old flat front tyre there, it turns the wheels, so it doesn't seem to be flexing too much. There's none of that kind of UJ kind of bindy chattery thing going on, so we should be good, hopefully. I did check the exhaust manifold back in there again. We've still got plenty of clearance, we're not hitting anything, so we're back in business, hopefully. Damn butterflies and their damn affecting things, you know, like butterfly farts over in bloody, you know, some province in Japan or something like that, and it creates this ripple effect which makes my steering hit my manifold, and it just starts this whole chain of events. But we're back on track now, I think. So that's where we're going to leave this video. This is going to be a horror of an edit because it had so many variations, and there's so much I didn't even film because I just got down a path and then I realised I was going down a whole nother road. But yeah, so I will endeavour to get this video edited and make something palatable out of it, hopefully. But yeah, so that's that done. Got a mess to clean up, tools to put away. I need to get this car out of the garage so I can have a proper sweep up again. But yeah, so if you haven't subscribed, get on there and subscribe. We're on also on Instagram and Facebook.
just joined up the Facebook the other week, and now I've got 2 subscribers. Thanks, Carl. And yeah, thanks for all your positive feedback and stuff like that. People really have liked the old paint on the dash type thing. I just won't show you too close. It's a little bit orange peely, but I reckon I might kind of get in there and try and give it a bit of a polish once it's kind of really sort of settled in a bit more. Yeah, I probably should leave well enough alone, but yeah, I'll give it a look in maybe. Yeah, and see how we go. Yeah, thanks. Till next time, take it easy. Peace.